What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. This video is not like my usual videos. This video is going to be more like a story time video, but it's going to be a story time about my life. Alright, like I said, this is going to be a video about my life. I don't really know how to start a video like this, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. So I started off, same as you, born with my parents. Actually, the first few years of my life, I didn't actually live with my parents though. I lived with my grandparents and my nene. She took care of me. My mom was in school when she had me. I ended up going to go stay with them and they took care of me for, I want to say, the first 4 years of my life. I may be wrong. I really don't remember. Fast forward a little past then, come to past that anesthesia. When you're the first 4 years of your life you don't remember. Yeah, well, past that point now. We were living in our own house and we stayed there for quite a long while actually. Most of our childhood memories happened there. Christmas, our first time riding bikes, our first time riding rollerblades. That was our first house that was big enough to actually ride bikes and rollerblades around. That's kind of crazy. And I told my girlfriend that the other day actually, and she said, "You rode your bike and your rollerblades in the house?" Yeah, kind of weird I was able to say that, but yeah. We lived there for the first few years of our life. Most of it was good. Of course, every family has their struggles. Our main struggles was just maintaining money in the house, maintaining food in the house, just having a stable spot to stay at. We stayed at that spot for the majority of our life, and then, well, not even the majority, till like we were like 8 or 9, and then we ended up moving into my nana's house, and we stayed there quite a little bit of time actually. Of course, everything good eventually has to come to an end. So they were really good to us. They were really good to me and my brother and my sister. But as far as my parents, I don't think my parents and my nene and my nana were getting along. So we ended up moving back to another house, our own house again. And we stayed there for quite many years. This is around COVID time and a little bit before that. So we were kind of in the area for a bit of a while, but I would say this is where like stuff actually started to hit the fan. Back then it was more like parents not paying attention to you. They were arguing, yelling in front of you, stuff like that, which that doesn't really go well with children. At first, I didn't like my family because I thought that I was what's the way to put it? I didn't feel like I belonged to that family. The way I acted compared to how they acted, it didn't feel like the right fit for me. They were my family at the end of the day, so I had to get that through my head one way or another, from food and stuff, my dad having to steal food occasionally or do what every man doesn't want to do but has to do sometimes to provide for his family. Some people might say, you don't have to go out and deal or be in the streets in order to take care of your family, but some people will say otherwise. Some people don't have another option and that's the only thing for them. Me, on the other hand, I vowed never to get into the streets, never to deal with any of that stuff. So here I am now making YouTube videos for you guys. The whole point of this YouTube channel is growth specifically. I'm doing my 30-day detox right now. That's growth. Getting better at training. That's growth. Getting better with these videos. That's growth. Getting better with my emotions and how I used to deal with stuff back in the day to how I deal with it now. That's growth. And I could tell you I came a long way from that. I'd say that was the majority of what happened in the house. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I could go on and on. The argument, the drinking, the yelling, what felt like mental abuse. There wasn't any physical abuse. We got whooped when we got disciplined, but there was no it was more mental abuse than it was physical abuse. So I'd say for starters, it really got bad after my mom and dad separated, and then my mom just started letting everybody come in the house. My mom started inviting friends into the house that weren't really good influences, kind of got my brother hooked onto street life. That was kind of bad. He never really he looked up to his father, but he never really looked up to him like that. Not saying in a bad way. I do love my father still. My father's my father. He gave birth. Well, he was also part of the process of being conceived, coming into life. So I have to give my dad props on that. I also have to give my mom's props because she was the one that birthed us. As far as being there, my mom was more there for us than our father. Mom and dad ended up separating out of that house. It created rifts between all of us. It was either our dad, team our mom. Our mom's not doing this, our dad's not doing that. So it was kind of a divided household. I kind of got my manhood from my dad a little bit, but it was mainly because of me being around my friends and stuff all the time. It just taught me how to be a better person eventually. And I remember back then I never really let stuff get to me. Moving forward, stuff was getting to me, and I would go to my friends for everything before I came to my family. So all that stuff, and we're still here. And then before we knew it, we got kicked out of that house, so we had to find somewhere else. Then we moved, went and got an apartment. Same people end up following us to the apartment. And what really didn't make it no better is we moved to the city. So my brother ended up getting more into the streets. My sister ended up turning to vapes and marijuana. And it just was, yeah. Before we knew it, the whole family was screwed. Everybody was doing their own thing. Everybody had their own not sense of purpose, but it was almost like everybody was doing their own thing with no discipline. This is also the first place where I started drinking, and well, actually no, I started drinking kind of younger than that. I know I wasn't supposed to, but my parents were kind of the endorsement of that. So, but I started smoking probably at 11. I hit the blunt my first time. And then it was edibles, and then it was me smoking with my friends. And my parents was like, we'd rather you smoke with your friends or us. Yeah, so that kind of got me into smoking. Now we're kind of undoing learned behaviors from probably 10 years ago or 9 years ago. And the family was slowly drifting apart. For me, it felt like I had to keep it together because my dad wasn't there. So I tried my best. I was arguing with them, yelling at them, rage so many times just unnecessarily. In my mind, it was me trying to hold everything together. We were pretty much falling apart at that point. Fast forward a little bit, we ended up getting kicked out of that apartment. I don't know what happened. I believe my mom was falling behind on the bills, and so much shit had happened in that house. There were so many fights, so many gang-related fights. My brother kept getting into gang-related trouble. It was ridiculous. And then we ended up getting kicked out of that apartment. We actually got banned because my brother threw trash on somebody's back porch. And then I remember that night so vividly because we had the dogs with us. We couldn't find anywhere to go. My brother and my sister had went and stayed at their friends' houses, and I stayed with my mom that night. And I just remember her crying because she didn't know where we had to go. And luckily I was working at the time, and I had a paycheck, $500 to my name. And I was able to get us a hotel for the night and a potential hotel for the next day if we needed it. Only reason it was harder for us to find a place is because, you know, we had the dogs with us. So then the person my brother was staying with, he actually got his friend's parents if we could stay in their basement until we got on our feet again. And luckily they said yeah. So we're very, very grateful for those people who took us in and let us stay with them for as long as we did to get back up on our feet. And then after that, we moved again. We moved and stayed with my mom's sister, which that was kind of good, kind of bad. It was good for me for some reason because I felt like I was not being divided out, but I think my mom's sister had treated me differently compared to what she treated them, and that wasn't right. That whole household situation was also a problem anyway because my mom and my mom's sister had kind of a toxic relationship. Bringing us into that house wasn't the best thing for it. So she ended up getting snippy and picky and threatening to kick us out. Called the police on my mom, tried to get her kicked out. That didn't work, so she tried to whole 9 yards. We ended up moving out of there. My mom got her own place again, and then we ended up staying there. But yeah, no, that was that. And then you know, we got dogs or whatnot. We ended up having, well, let me count right quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 7 dogs in our childhood, including 8 if you include my last dog, Sadie. But I had her for the longest. She was my babe, so there's no, like, yeah. So I might as well count 8. The other dogs, you know, we had them when we were living at that house, and they basically became our responsibility. I guess that's how they tried to teach us responsibility. And then, you know, we were so young at the time, we couldn't work a job or whatnot. My mom and dad continued to get into arguments. My mom had a bad back, so she ended up having to do back surgery, and that put her on some downtime. Like, it was really bad. I believe she ended up getting behind in the rent. My dad wasn't in the house. I believe my dad and her separated at this point and wasn't really able to help, but he would come to the house, give her showers and stuff, help her move around and stuff like that until she was able to get on her own feet again. I remember that winter we had lost almost all the dogs. It was a really cold winter. She didn't have the money. We couldn't really feed them. So we were in that house from, I want to say, like 2016 to 2020, probably less than that. Actually, I really don't remember. It's so long ago. My mom and dad were in constant arguments. Sometimes it got to the point where they really couldn't get food in the house. We had to ask other family members to help bring food in the house and stuff. And that kind of, you know, it was embarrassing sometimes, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do. We had to live. We had to eat somehow, so. And it was either that or we get taken away from our family. And we really didn't want that to happen. We didn't want to get separated in the system, so we ended up staying. My mom and dad arguing multiple times. My mom pulled a gun on my dad. My dad broke his hand arguing with my mom. It was just a whole lot. My mom would tell us things that she was going through, tell us what was on her mind, which, you know, your parents are supposed to be there for you. And it's not the other way around of you being there for them. But in some situations, it might happen like that, but that's okay. My mom would always talk to us. I know my mom always wanted the best for us, but sometimes she couldn't give us the best. So she gave us the next best thing. My mom was always there for us. My dad was always working or out somewhere. My mom was there at our football games, at our wrestling matches, track meets, anything like that, school events, all of it. She was there. She made sure we got to be able to go to it, and yeah. I know you guys are probably like, you were not in this location in the first part of this video. Well, I forgot to add this little bit in there as I was going over and editing, so let me just go ahead and edit that in here now. My sister had passed. I wasn't at the house. Apparently, she had got shot. And like I said, I wasn't at the house. I still don't know stories, so I can't tell you a story. All I could tell you is that right there. But it was horrible. I was trying to get there. I couldn't get there. I didn't have a car at the time. All I had was my scooter, and my granny, which I was staying with at the time, she didn't want to take me to go to that house that night. So I had to ride myself there on my scooter. And I got there. There's police outside the building. Well, police outside the house. Ambulance outside the house, news people, everything. Hella people. Just for us to be there for like an hour and some change, and then them to tell us that my sister didn't make it. It really sucked. I remember feeling hopeless that day. I really didn't think that we were going to ever come back from that. Kind of surprised that we came back from that how we did, but we bounced back. But that doesn't mean the situation didn't get any better after that. So turns out my clip's messed up. There's a couple things I also want to add. I was homeschooled, but I was homeschooled when we got to the apartment and then I got my job. I ended up paying for my own homeschool, and I homeschooled myself till then, and then I finished out school through homeschool. Only reason that was is because I didn't like the schools in the area that I was in, so I chose to be homeschooled. It wasn't the best. We ended up leaving our dogs there, and we ended up having to keep going back and forth to the house to walk them and make sure they had food and water and stuff. And eventually we ended up having to get rid of them because my mom couldn't stand going back in the house. My mom couldn't stand going back in the house. My brother couldn't go in the house. They were the only two that was home that night when it happened. On the other hand, I was the one that had to go in there every day. Me having to go in there and deal with the dogs, and like I was purposefully looking for stuff to try to give me answers on what happened that night. A drop of blood, a piece of something, a piece of clothing, something, but I couldn't find it. So all I had to go off of was stories and stuff. I still don't know what happened to my sister that night, and that's the crazy part. Fast forward a little bit, my mom and them ended up getting rid of the house. They came and stayed with my granny where I was staying. Well, my mom moved to Richmond with her friends, and we ended up just staying where we were staying at. We didn't go nowhere. And then we ended up staying there. There was no arguments. Our granny was our granny, and she was old. And we all know how old people get. Picky, want things their way, stuck in their ways. That's understandable. It was just like, after all we had been through and the stuff that she was starting to put us through, the targeting and stuff like that, it just won't right. I ended up meeting my girlfriend where I worked at. We ended up staying together for a little bit, and then eventually we ended up moving out together. I still stay with this person, live with this person, sleep with this person. So first girlfriend too, one and only. Never had anything else, just this one. We ended up hitting it off, and a year goes by and we were practicing on saving our money and getting our stuff together, set up for grown-up life. We had a couple breakups, but we got back together. And we dialed down really what the problems were on those situations that we were having, and we were able to make it as far as we did today. Well, as far as how we've come today. Very thankful that I found her, because if I didn't find her, I'd probably be in a worse place right now. I'd probably be doing something way worse with my life that I shouldn't be. We ended up heading it off. We ended up saving some money, and then we got an apartment together. Hence where we're living at now, where my videos are shot at some of the times now, my little skits and stuff. My main videos on my YouTube are shot mainly at my friend's house, but if I do a short or something, it's at my apartment sometimes. But yeah, no, it doesn't sound like much when you look at it. Like we're still going through stuff. It's just not as bad anymore. Like the house we lived in between 2020 to 2016 or so, that house consisted of nicotine abuse, marijuana abuse, alcohol abuse. My mom was drinking every night, had people over that would drink every night or every other night. We had a woman that was staying with us, and she got put out in the worst way, and we wanted to stop it, but we Me and my sister wanted to stop it, but we couldn't because of what was happening and whatnot. There's so many things that just still scar my mind from back then, like the conditions that we used to stay in, or the conditions we had to deal with, or some of the stuff that they had put us through. Like, the dogs were mainly one of them. Us losing all those dogs was kind of draining for me because we lost, some of them died by freezing, and they had forced me to go take them and bury them in the back. And you know, you're like, your kid has to deal with some type of like down moment or something, but no kid should ever have to deal with a dead dog or something on their own. I always thought that they were trying to teach us to be independent, but I mean, and it's made us independent, but it's made us too independent, if that's ever a thing. Like, I fear sometimes asking for help. I sometimes just don't ask people for certain things, try to do everything on my own, but that's not the right way to go about it. But yeah, no, bottom line with this video, everybody's going through something. Everybody's went through something, no matter how bad it is. I can't tell you how many times I've probably thought about just ending it, but thankfully God and my friends and everything that I look up to has just kept me from going down that path. And even this now, I probably look at this video a few years from now when I do get successful, and I'll be like, oh, you really sat down in that field that day and just did a miniature brain dump. You could have went more into detail, but you got basically just the topics. Your head feels clear. I remember how your head felt so clear back in that day, and now look at you. You're making money, you're traveling the world, you're doing all these things. And I just want to inspire people to do the same thing, because it's like we have a bunch of people out there just dying and killing themselves because they can't do this one thing, and it's just talk to people. I think it should be aware that, you know, men's mental health awareness and females' health and mental awareness and stuff like that, everybody's mental health is important. It's just you have those certain people that just went through it when they were little, and they still have the memories playing back in their head. They still have the thoughts in their head, scars in their head they can't unlearn. But that's mainly why I started the detox, trying to force myself to learn how to heal. I'm also doing this video because I want to inspire other people that healing is possible, and that you don't have to do drugs, you don't have to drink alcohol, you don't have to socially kill yourself in order to heal. Doing stuff like this is healing. Making videos and stuff, that's how I picture myself healing. I can play around with my imagination, and I've always been an imaginative person, so in my mind, I'm healing by working and keeping my mind distracted from what I didn't want to think about back then. But I mean, distracting yourself isn't gonna heal you. You're gonna have to overcome it eventually. And I've been doing that day by day. Yeah, I hope this video helps. Please be sure to leave a like. It really means a lot to me. I see myself being a winner. I don't see myself being a small achiever. I see myself being a winner. And like I said, there's too many people in this world where we can't all just, I wouldn't say we all just can't get along, but we all can't come together and create something to make living life just a little bit happier, a little bit, and especially help out that next person to you, because you don't know what they're going through. And you don't know, one thing you could say to them and it might save their life, or it might stop that one bad decision that they were thinking about doing. So just be thankful for what you got, be thankful for what you don't have, and just be thankful for your friends, and you'll make it a long way. But all right, guys, peace.